Greetings, YouTube pipe community. It's Peter Piper the True Light coming to you from my deck. And this is part two of my post for Memorial Day. Even though today is the 2nd of June, it's Memorial Day week. Most people take Monday off, and in my case, I take the whole week off and spend some well-needed vacation, PTO as it is. Anyway, a couple of things to get out of the way. My housekeeping is I'm smoking my Wicks Bulldog, newly restored. Great smoking pipe. And in it, I am getting kind of low on this. Peter Stokkebye Luxury Twist Flake. Excellent, excellent tobacco. Pure Virginias, Virginias from several regions, which is interesting because I was educated on this a couple of vids back, that Virginia tobacco doesn't necessarily come from Virginia. Yeah. Anyway, been busy. Lots of stuff I got to do. I still haven't opened my pool. I got to do that. I keep putting it off because I don't know. Not as enthusiastic as I've been previously. And it's not looking too good right now either. Might attract some tree frogs. And if it does, I'll, well, anyway. I thought a lot about doing this, and I'm glad I didn't do it right away because I really needed to think about it. And the thing I want to talk about, we all know, or we should know, that Memorial Day is not a day to necessarily honor veterans that are among us, walking and talking, but it's to honor veterans who have paid the ultimate sacrifice, paid the ultimate price in a sacrifice of their lives, I meant to say. And in many cases, I also want to mention that there are scars from the battlefield that aren't necessarily skin deep, but they're scars in the mind. And I think a lot of people come back from a combat situation, and if their lives aren't ruined, they're changed forever. Certainly, I think that war is something that probably changes your entire psyche. And I'll just say I was in the Navy on active duty, and it was I would say it was a pretty peaceful time. I did not experience combat at all. About the worst thing I could say is that we probably played cat and mouse with a lot of Russian submarines. I was on an anti-sub ASW boat, and that was its mission, to hunt down and destroy enemy submarines. And one of the things it had, and this was part of the ASW mission, was it had a helicopter. And the ship was a 1052 Knox class destroyer escort, which was later changed. The designation was later changed to Fleet Frigate 1052 Knox class, and it had a hangar on the back that was like an accordion. It used to come out and retract, so that the helicopter deck was, more. There was more space on it. And this was probably the worst thing that happened when I was in the Navy, and not all military deaths happen in combat. There's a lot of accidents that take place, and I was witness to one of them. Um, there were two tall antenna masts on each corner of the helicopter hangar, and when we were at Sea and Anchor Detail, about 20 miles off the coast in the littoral area, uh, before you get out into what they call blue water Navy, and um, the helicopter started its engine and it started warming up and everything like that. And at the same time, I was on Sea and Anchor Detail, and being the duty electrician on the forecastle of the ship, where the anchor winch is, there was a boatswain's mate, chief boatswain's mate actually, BMC, and we were anchored overnight, and he was bringing up the anchor with the winch, which has a pretty powerful electric motor on it. If you can imagine, I think it's called the capstan that winds the chain, and it had settled in a lot of mud, and it was he had a real hard time bringing up the anchor, and the mud was coated on the anchor chain, and you're talking about links on the chain being like this big, and they have a partition in the middle, and just goes link by link by link, and it was coming up, and it had real black mud on it because it had settled um, into the ocean floor. Uh, so he called a couple of guys, other guys that were on duty on that detail, on Sea and Anchor Detail, and he had them charge up two fire hoses and shoot uh, um, water from the fire main down through the shaft to basically wash the anchor chain off while he was still bringing up the anchor. While that was taking place, I heard the helicopter rev up, and it started to take off, and then I heard the worst sound in the world that you would ever want to hear, and it was just like and sounded like, a lawnmower when you run over something like a rock or something like that. It's like, okay, the engine's stalling and everything like that. And what happened was those two antenna masts on the corners of the uh, helo hangar, one of the rotor blades smacked into that, and I looked up in the direction of the of where the helo was, and all I saw were just like parts flying in every direction. And a second later, the fuselage of the helicopter just landed upside down in the water right next to the ship. And it's lucky nobody else got hurt. Um, there were four guys in the helicopter, and two of them were able to escape. Uh, However, one of the pilots, I think it was a pilot and a co-pilot, and one of the co-pilots escaped, and a lieutenant who was the supply officer, I don't know where they were going. They were probably going to shore for something or other. The supply officer and one of the pilots, I think, got out of the helo before it sank, and it sank really quick. And but the pilot drowned, and also an electronic warfare second class type of guy. I forget his actual designation, but he died also. Anyway, one of the things I remember after that was, of course, they announced flight crash, flight crash. This is not a drill. And I saw one of the decorative life rings that had the name of the ship on it and the hull number and everything like that get tossed into the water. And the lieutenant, of course, grabbed that And meanwhile, we're still trying to bring up the anchor. And I looked over, and the chief boatswain's mate wasn't paying any attention to what was going on with regard to the helo crash. He was just doing his job, bringing up the anchor, and he had to like jerk it back and forth in order to finally get it up. But I thought that was strange. And one of the other boatswain's mate just turned around with a startled look on his face and looked up and said, "What happened?" But the chief just kept doing his job, bringing up the anchor. So one of the guys that died, and this was, I didn't get familiar with the other enlisted man that perished, but the pilot, one of the pilots anyway, the one that died, I saw his picture in there's a website called Together We Served, and I think it's for all the services, but I've got a page on there, and this guy had a page too. Actually, another chief petty officer actually did this guy's page for him because, of course, he was deceased, and this was way back in the 70s. They didn't have the internet or web pages or stuff like that. So I was reading about the history of this guy, and ironically, he was a Marine Corps. Started out as a Marine Corps enlisted man, and did, I think, 2 tours of duty in Vietnam, combat duty as a Marine. And he came out of that, went to officers candidate school, and at the time of the accident, he was a lieutenant commander and a pilot in a highly decorated flight squadron. I mean, they had all kinds of awards and stuff like that. And excuse me. Anyway, and he was pretty highly decorated from his combat service as well. And just ironic that something like that could happen to somebody after doing 2 tours of duty in Vietnam, and then some screwy accident happens on the ship. Well, there's actually more to the story, and maybe you figured this out by now by my description. Um, we had a reunion back in 2004, and this was like close to it's about 25 years after this happened. This thing happened in 1975, so it was 29 years, almost 30 years uh, coming up on when I met some of my shipmates, and there were 2 guys that were in my division, which was our gang, which was the repair division in the ship, being an electrician. And we took a cruise on a boat, which was a gambling ship. We were down in Treasure Island on the west coast of Florida. So to gamble, you get on a boat and you go out and I guess into international waters or some distance where you can do it legally. And we were sitting around having drinks. Actually, we had breakfast on the ship, I'm pretty sure. And we were sitting around and we were talking about, you know, this incident that we all witnessed. Um, and I was talking about how the chief was dicking around with the anchor and everything like that. Well, if you've got a stuck anchor in a boat and you're jerking it around, the ship's going to be doing this. There's going to be some degree of oscillation. on the boat. So the antenna was probably doing the same thing. And I think that when the helo took off, it didn't take into account the fact that the ship was in a mode of oscillation, and that's how he hit the antenna mast. And I did some more reading on it, and it's actually not standard procedure. The boat should be going at 5 knots underway before the helicopter should take off. That was standard procedure, and we weren't going anywhere. We were bringing up the anchor. But that was an incident that probably the worst thing I saw as during my tour of duty, and guess I'm lucky. But I know that I wanted to dedicate it towards guys that don't necessarily die in combat, but they come home mentally scarred, and the suicide rate for combat veterans coming home is very high. So there's where I think Memorial Day, they should be considered as well during this solemn day where we honor our war dead, and certainly people that die in training accidents and unforeseen circumstances. So that's it. Guess I've talked quite a bit. This is one of my longer videos, 17 minutes. So, have a good day. Have a good evening. Speak the truth, seek enlightenment, and as always, God bless. Peter Pfeiffer with True Light, signing off. Take care, folks.